Hi, I'm Dean Bushmiller, and we're going to talk about cryptographic key management principles and practices. If you don't have access to the full recording, go to our Expanding Security website, expandingsecurity.com, and also you can get the mind maps, quizzers, badges, and all the other great stuff from our website. So let's get started. From a concept standpoint, we're talking about first digital certificates. Okay, that's the equivalent of a passport made of bits. It contains entity information, contains information that proves the authenticity of the certificate. It should be tamper resistant, and most are at this point, unless you're actually attacking the other systems around it, like the DNS. Issued by trusted third parties. So it may not be issued by you, it may be issued by somebody else. And it's traceable back to the issuer. If I buy a certificate from GoDaddy or from Digital Notar, you have to know that it came from them, and that's included in the browser. It also has an expiration. The design on the expiration is not to make money for the certificate authorities, but it's to go ahead and make sure that we update our certificates and rekey at a reasonable rate. What's this get us if we do all of this stuff? Well, it provides us an unprivileged entities the ability to assert the validity of binding through signature. What's that mean? That you can look and see that I am who I say I am, or this website came from me. We get non-repudiation of source. You could call that authentication, but that's not exactly what we're getting right here. You can authenticate the signer. So if I sign a piece of software, you can go ahead and look at that piece of software, that signature on that, and you can go back up the chain of trust all the way to a root that's signed for my signature. You get message integrity out of it if you're using it for those kinds of signatures. And in theory, you can get confidentiality out of this. You can for digital certificates, but you should not. Now, we're talking about the larger system here. We're defining the ability to bind entities to a credential. Me is represented by that set of bits that's sitting right there. Its strength wholly relies on either the vendor's process or my internal process. So therefore, we have to have really good long-term process here. Now, if you're given a set of business requirements, you need to appropriately implement cryptographic protocol algorithms. And in this case, we're talking about digital signatures, and the underlying process for that is key management within your organization. You have to address the management processes along with this. And this is really hard for management to say, hey, can't you just go ahead and turn that thing up in 15 minutes and get it done? Because we're in this age of instant gratification where Amazon can say they can build you a website in 10 seconds. Management's process on this is a little bit different. We've got to look at the key management stakeholders, figure out what our key management rotation plan is going to be. The keys have to be rotated. Coordinate key management with the vendors and the consultants. If you're on a 2-year cycle and I'm on a 3-year cycle, do we have to wait until the cicadas from each different cycle come out so that we can actually match this up? Or can we adjust the contracts so that they match up and actually meet? We have to maintain accountability for all key management in every single deployment throughout our organization, even self-signed keys internally. We have to limit key distribution only to authorized entities. So if I issue a key, you need to be authorized for that, and we need to have at least an employment agreement in place, or maybe even a contract if you're a third party. And we have to maintain the records of all the devices that receive encryption keys. Remember, a lot of times those keys are loaded onto processes or loaded into servers, and those servers are in the cloud somewhere. The problem with PKI, and we need to look at a very real problem that happens quite often. Now, I'll show you the diagram here, and I want you to answer this question. Who's really at fault for this? So if you look at this, it says this site cannot provide a secure connection. It's trying to use an unsupported protocol. And it says SSL version or cipher mismatch. Is this an end user problem or is this a server problem? Now, from a business perspective, if I'm the business, I say, well, I set it up so that I gave the most secure communication that I possibly could to my client. And the client says, you suck at implementing because I want to use an old phone with an old implementation of SSL and you don't offer me that encryption. I'm not buying from you. And that's what happens. Well, it turns out that what you're doing is you're protecting all the other customers. And this is a mismatch between the client's expectations and business expectations of protecting all the rest of the clients. It's a very weird thing that happens where you're providing more security, but you're getting less customers. And boy, does business hate that. So let's think about the process here just for a second. In the perfect world, we should be able to test and verify all of the implementations that are out there. On the implementation side of things, it's messy and it doesn't follow the concept perfectly. And finally, vendors who are involved in this, they want to sell you, well, a little piece of this, and they want to control the market. So they're going to try and implement a little bit differently. So that's the overview of what we're going to do. And let's get started with that.